I want to talk today, and today's message title is called "'Tis the Season." 'Tis the season. And how many are actually, you can admit it, how many are enjoying the change of this season right now, weather-wise? How many, you're like, okay, wow, actually more than I thought. Wow. Okay. Well, there are seasons of the year, and that, of course, means weather change. Weather changes, holidays, you're putting up decorations for this or taking them down for that. Or, some of you are closing up your summer stuff outside now because the season is changing. And how about the tasks of the season? Aren't those fun? The different things you have to get ready. Some of you are pumping antifreeze in your pool lines, or you're having to get certain things ready outside, make sure your gutters are clear, all this stuff. And the tasks of the season, they're a blast. This isn't the case much anymore because most tires are all season, but people, I guess depending on what part of the country you live in, you have to change your tires. And remember, this is the time today was fall back. How many enjoy that extra hour? Yeah, our son, we do have a son, Hans, by the way. We do have a son. And I forgot about him. He's actually at Fort Lee. He's in the Missouri National Guard. He's actually going to watch this later. And he's down at Fort Lee, Virginia right now until he heads back to Evangel in the spring semester. But he had night watch last night, he told me, from 1 to 3. And it's broken up in 2-hour increments. And so he went in at 1. He said, Dad, I'm going to literally go to night watch at 1. And then when it gets to be 2 o'clock, the clocks turn back and it's 1 again. And then I have to stay till 3. But this is the time during this to change your batteries and your smoke detectors, those tasks as seasons change, wardrobes. Maybe, I don't know if you're the designated person in your home. I think some of you students here, you magically walk into your room one day and like your summer clothes are gone and your winter clothes are there. What had the fairy comes and takes care of all that? But maybe that's the thing you have to do. And as the seasons of the year change, you have seasons of your life. You have childhood, maybe hopefully when you're kind of carefree, things are just exciting, you're doing everything, you don't think about where things are coming from, or you're just a kid, and it's the season of your life. And you get into adolescence, and everybody knows that in some ways that's one of the great times of life, but for many it's a very challenging time of life. And then you get early adulthood, and you're in school, and you're training for a trade, or you're working, and you're beginning your career, and these are just all kinds of seasons that change. And then you're in middle age and all that brings, and then you're in retirement, and you're thinking back and all the things that go through your mind. We have seasons of the year, seasons of our life. Even churches go through seasons. I remember the season in 2006 when the cafe and the wing over here was being built. A season for building, maybe a season for healing in a church where things have happened in a church somewhere and they're really going through a time when they're healing. Or a time of harvest in a church, a season of just harvest where it just seems like every week somebody's coming to know Christ. Every week somebody's being prepared to be baptized or whatever it might be. Season of repentance, a season of growing. Even churches experience seasons. And as individuals, we have seasons too. We have seasons and moments in our life when we really need to invest, maybe in a relationship or financially. You have a season where you need to heal over something that's happened in your past, or a season when really the major theme is that your life is being strengthened. Maybe a season of giving. You feel like all I do is give out. I think of moms with young ones, and it just seems like, and often cases, all they do is just give of themselves, give of themselves, give of themselves. That's maybe the season you're in. Maybe there's a season when you just need to back up and withdraw a little bit, kind of recoup and regain some perspective, or a season of mourning maybe you've gone through, or of rejoicing, excitement, maybe even a season of wrestling, where you're just kind of wrestling with what's happening in life, and that's the season you're in. The writer of Ecclesiastes understood the reality of seasons in his famous refrain when he says this in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, 1 through 8. He says, there is a time for everything, a season for every activity under the heavens. A time to be born, time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down, a time to build, a time to weep, and a time to laugh. And one of my favorite ones from the classic movie in the 80s, Footloose, a time to mourn and a time to dance, right? A time to scatter stones, a time to gather them, a time to embrace, a time to refrain from embracing, a time to search and a time to give up, a time to keep and a time to throw away. Some of you need to learn that here today. There is a time to throw away some things. A time to tear down, a time to mend, a time to be silent, a time to speak, a time to love, a time to hate, a time for war, and a time for peace. Even the wisdom of God and those that have written our scriptures know that there's a season for things. You know, even if you look at the life of Jesus, we see seasons. We see his childhood from his birth and the angels appearing. And then when he's a toddler, we see wise men appearing. And then the dream and moving to Egypt. And we see that season of his life. Maybe you're here and you can relate to Jesus when you were really young. Like I was, you moved a lot. I mean, we moved all over the place. We were in Central America, we lived. Then we moved back to the U.S. and we lived with this family and that. And then at 5, it leveled out. But up until then, we moved a lot. And then we see Jesus' adolescent and early adulthood. We don't really see a whole lot, but we see him at the temple. And he's 12. He's entering manhood. He's entering being a young man. And he's at the temple. And man, he's just in the zone. He's with these teachers. And they're amazed at his knowledge and understanding. His parents can't find him in that whole story. And then it's pretty silent, completely silent. He has that season of his life, probably working with his father at some level. And then we see that season of ministry from the wedding of Cana to choosing his disciples, reading the scroll of Isaiah and communicating what he was there for, announcing the kingdom is here, and his public ministry, and then ultimately his death and his resurrection. See, even Jesus experienced seasons in his own life. And you may be here, and you are going into your favorite season of the year, as I had you raise your hands earlier. Some of you just love fall, love winter. You know, it just feels good. I'm a fan. I always have been. Even when I was young, I've always loved this time of year. But maybe you're sad. Maybe you're here and you're like, actually, I'm depressed now because I'm leaving my favorite season. You have tears running down your face as you're closing your pool, or tears that are running down your face as you're having to put your summer clothes away. Maybe, I don't know where you're at in that spectrum. But maybe in your life personally, you might be in the middle of your favorite season. Don't you appreciate when you get to be a part of a season of your life that you're really enjoying? Isn't that great? I mean, that's when you get to have those moments and those experiences in life where you're in the season in your career, or the season in your family, or the season of whatever it might be, where it's just awesome. It's awesome to be there. It's awesome to be a part of what you're doing. But you might be in the middle of your favorite season. But maybe you're here and you're still in school and you haven't had a whole lot of seasons yet, so you don't know how to really compare it. Or you're here and you're here today and you have a smile on your face and you, to everyone else, you look like everything's good. But the reality is that you're in the darkest season of your life. Maybe due to health, maybe due to things going on in your marriage that maybe have you've had a part in, or maybe have been beyond your control. Maybe you're having parenting dilemmas and parenting challenges, and it's a dark, difficult time in the season of your life. Maybe in your job, it's just, you had bosses change, and your portfolio change, or your responsibilities change, and it's different. And it's just a very difficult time in the season of your life. Relational changes, financial, the list could go literally on and on and on. But whatever and wherever you find yourself today, just know a few things. We're going to put them up here. Just a few things about seasons of your life. Number one, seasons are just a part of life, aren't they? You can't avoid them. They are a part of your life. I have a brother and a sister that live in Southern California, and they kind of have two seasons, you know, really hot and less hot, and it's all dry, and that's just their seasons. I like all the seasons. I don't know, maybe I'm weird. But seasons are just a part of your life, and if you've lived long enough, you know that. Number two, seasons change, but they don't last forever. Aren't you glad that some seasons don't last forever? Aren't you glad that some seasons you're like, okay, go on, move, get out of here, season. You know, you're like, I'm done with you. Aren't you glad they don't last forever? Number three, seasons present an opportunity. Where we live in Galena, around our home, they farm. And they just cut down the soybean about 2 weeks ago. And so it was all empty, or actually probably 3 weeks ago. And they cut it all down. And all of a sudden you'll notice in some places, you'll drive by a field and it looks like a lawn. Like something's like a big field with like grass. You're like, what's that? It's wheat. They plant it now, and then when the winter comes, it lays dormant. And then when the spring comes, it comes up. And if you've ever seen a wheat field, my wife's from Kansas, I could never appreciate open spaces like she could. She's from more of the urban areas of Kansas, but she loves a wheat field. And I have really grown to look at that and enjoy the beauty, especially with this wind and it's blowing. It's incredible. But if they don't do the work in this season, the next season, there's nothing there. But if they do the work in this season and plant that wheat and it looks like it's beautiful, it's green, it's growing, then it kind of dies and just kind of lays low. But in the next season, there's a harvest, there's something they get to enjoy. And I want to read our main scripture. It's just one verse. I want to read it. I'm going to read it actually in three different translations, okay? It's going to be up on the screen for you so you can see. I had told Jesse and some of the guys back there, I said, one of the things I'm going to have to adjust to is I'm used to preaching with a 40-foot diagonal screen behind me. And so the words I put are plenty big. They're like life size. And so in that thinking in my mind, I forgot, oh, wait, this is a screen that's it's a different setup. So I promise in the future, if you're straining to see this, that we'll have bigger words later. But for today, just concentrate, close your eyes, just listen. So three translations here. Here we go. We're going to start. I'm going to start with the NLT here. It says, Proverbs 24 says, those too lazy to plow in the right season will have no food at the harvest. In the NIV, sluggards do not plow in season. So at harvest time, they look but find nothing. And then in the KJV, it says this, King James says, the sluggard will not plow by reason of the cold. Therefore shall he beg in harvest and have nothing. I want to talk about how you can make the most of every season of your life. No matter whether you find yourself in your favorite season, or you find yourself in a very difficult season, or you're kind of in a season that you're not saying it's great or it's bad, it's just challenging. It's difficult. Number one, there is always a good reason not to plow in season. There's always a good reason not to plow in season. Now, honestly, I did not try to make that rhyme. It just literally came out. It just came out. I am not one of those guys. Don't judge me. I'm not one of those rhyming pastors that comes up here and rhymes every word. It just came out, and I promise you I'm not him. But plowing in Jesus' day was a pain. It was difficult. Now God bless farmers today. I mean, I'm not a farmer. I'm not from a family of farmers. I'm the guy that drives on the road and watches farmers. You know what I mean? I've never worked on a farm. But I tell you, compared to Jesus' day, I'd rather sit in a big combine with air conditioning. I don't know about you. On a hot day, everything's computerized. It's insane. And of course, everything's more expensive. And these poor farmers have to really make it work with all the technology they have and everything. But in Jesus' day, farming was a pain. You had to deal with the elements. You had to plow with animals that are temperamental. How many have temperamental animals living in or around your house? You know that. They had to deal with equipment that would be far more inferior than what we would have today. They had to deal with the ground, which is hard. See, sowing the seed or planting was relatively easy compared to what? Plowing. Plowing. That's why I believe the scripture mentions plowing and not sowing. It says there very clearly that those too lazy to plow in the right season. Anybody can throw some seed around and be like, yeah, here we go. Let's do that. Anybody can do that. But the one who has to plow, that's the one who has to really get down to it. And we might think this, I don't want to plow. I don't want to plow. Why would I want to do that? I'm tired. I'm busy with other things. It's too cold. Last season was hard. The King James says this, by reason of the cold, the sluggard won't plow. See, it's not ready yet. It's too cold. How many here hate doing things in the cold? Anybody here, you hate doing things in the cold? Your hands hurt. How many that unique? Your hands are about frozen. You're trying to work on something, and your hands just you feel like your fingers are just going to literally fall off your body. It's painful. Your dexterity's off. You're like, I can't seem to grab this nut. You're like, you can't do the things you can typically do when your hands are normal. And overall, it's just uncomfortable. See, in our life, when it comes to seasons in our life, we're not just talking about it being fall now and coming into winter, but in seasons in our life, there's always a reason. We can always come up with a reason not to plow, not to do the most important things when we're in the right season. We can always think of a reason not to. And winter's coming, and maybe here's just a simple example that we can all understand. Maybe we can all relate to when it comes to plowing or doing things important in season. See, we can always find a good reason not to worship together. Now, I just want to say, first of all, for you that are here, you gave me several applauses today, and I appreciate that. But would you give yourself an applause today for being here? Well done. You could have said, fall back. I'm going to fall back in my bed, That's what I'm going to fall back in. That's what I'm about. That's what I'm going to do today. But you didn't. And just for the record, it's not because today was donut day that you came early, right? It's not for. And there's. I just want to know. I came in at 8:35, and the donuts were gone. They were gone. I couldn't believe it. I mean, we crushed some donuts today at Praise. We crushed some donuts. But I understand that sometimes there are some reasons and times that we won't be here to worship. I get that. Vacation, Pastor Brandon, he's probably gone all the time on vacation all the time. I'm new here. I don't know things, I'm just kidding. But you might think, or you wake up on a Sunday morning and say, it's too cold, We're in the season here. It's too cold. I've had a long week. I have stuff due. I have project, and the Patriots are playing tonight. I got to prepare myself all day for that. I got to do that and get that ready. See, I'm convinced that when you and I miss worshiping together, we really do miss out. I had something funny happen at Real Life. I resigned on the 22nd of September. And then so the 22nd happened, the 29th happened, the first week of October, whatever that was, happened. And then the 13th of October came, and a woman came to me and said, I just found out this morning that you've resigned. I said, yeah, 3 weeks ago. Well, I haven't been here. I said, since the 22nd. She says, no. I said, and we have a good relationship. I said, that's what happens when you miss. Even though I sent an email, I sent an email out with my resignation letter to everyone and all that. And I said, hey, when you miss, sometimes you miss out. And it's interesting, you might miss all kinds of things. If you weren't here, you might miss the opportunity because there's a person that really needs to talk to you today. There's a person that really needs to hear your encouragement today, or hear your voice, or hear something going on in your life, but there's somebody that needs you today, and if you weren't here, you would have missed that. Maybe an opportunity for prayer. I think it's incredible when God's people pray for each other. As pastors, certainly we want to pray for you. We're there to pray. We're there to call on the name of the Lord for you. But I think it's fabulous when God's people encourage each other and pray for each other. When we're not there, we may miss on a directional word from God for our life. When we're looking for an answer, a solution, some wisdom in a situation, we could really miss out on those opportunities as well. We could miss out on an opportunity to give. A convoy of hope is coming soon, one day to feed the world. We don't want to miss out on anything. See, this is even the reality. I know that there are some within the sound of my voice here today, or maybe some that'll check it out online this afternoon, that really God's Word hasn't really been a part of your week at all. And so when you come Sunday, that's literally one of the only times you get God's Word. And if you miss and don't come, can you imagine you're literally starving to death spiritually? See, there are so many examples of doing things in the season when the season is right. No matter if it's cold or no matter if everything is perfect and right. When we do things in season, it's important because there's always a reason not to plow in season. There's always a reason to not do the things in the season that'll really bless the season ahead. Maybe raising your kids in the faith, you have a small pocket, a small window to invest in them. Not only what happens here, but to pray with them, talk with them, lead them. Establishing healthy values in your life and taking that season and really making that solid in your world. Taking advantage of employment opportunities and really going for things in that season. Financial decisions and priorities. You have that season where it's the right season to plow, to do that hard work. Health decisions, saying during this season I'm going to really make it count so that the next season I'm going strong in the next season. Maybe deliberately dealing with sin in your own life and saying, God, I want this next season to be different. And I'm going to address these issues of sin. I'm going to bring somebody along with me and really attack that with your power in my life. Maybe having those important conversations in the right season or doing something at your job, taking your break time and using it for prayer, whatever it might be. But there are times and things we can do in seasons that are important because there's always a reason not to plow in season. There's always a reason why not. And I want to encourage you here today that you can literally make the most of every season of your life. If whatever season you're in, do the most important things in that season so that when the next season comes, you'll be as prepared as you're able to be. Number 2, don't lean on your intentions. And we're going to go quickly here. Don't lean on your intentions. See, the word that is used here is sluggard. It can be used interchangeably with the word idleness. Could you say idleness? Have you ever been idle here before? Idleness has nothing to do with ability. It is merely a lack of action. Idleness has nothing to do with the power and the ability and the resource in here. It has everything to do with action. Have you ever wondered how many hours a police cruiser idles? I mean, crazy amounts of hours. I mean, I bet you if we had an officer up here, he'd be able to tell us, there's just times when they just idle and idle and idle. Have you ever been driving down the highway and have seen one of those idling police cars on the side of the road? And then you drive by going maybe, 20, 25 miles over the speed limit. And you look in your rearview mirror only to see them go from idle to full on closing in on you. Now, I don't know this from firsthand experience. Somebody actually told me about this. I don't know anything about this. This is secondhand, just to let you know. See, until that officer puts it in drive and steps on the gas, it has all the potential in the world. But once he does that, it goes from idleness to actually action and activity. See, we can know all the things we are to do. And if I were to ask for a raise of hands, I'm sure all of us could say, boy, in this season, yeah, boom, for me, yeah. Oh, and that's this season here, yeah, I should do that. We know a lot of things. If we literally just acted out on the things we know right now, we wouldn't need another sermon. We know a lot, don't we? I feel like, especially in this age, we know a lot of information, a lot of facts. We can all know a lot of things, have all the knowledge we want, have all the insight to make a good decision or to prioritize something, but when we don't have action, we are only idle. And the writer of Proverbs learns a lesson from watching others who were idle. In Proverbs chapter 24, verse 27, it says, put your outdoor work in order and get your fields ready. After that, build your house. And I went past the field of a sluggard, past the vineyard of someone who has no sense, and the thorns had come up everywhere, the ground was covered with weeds, the stone wall was in ruins, and I applied my heart to what I observed, and I learned a lesson from what I saw. A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come upon you like a thief, scarcity like an armed man. You know, when it comes to our intentions, and I believe that many people have good intentions, probably most people really have good intentions. Maybe they think things like, man, I should call that person and make it right. Maybe they think, boy, I should become more healthy in this way or that way. I should really do something about that. Somebody might say, I feel like I need to speak to that coworker about my faith. I need to share. I've known them a long time. We've had all kinds of conversations. I really should do something about that. Maybe there's a student here and you think, boy, I've always thought I could be a light on my school campus in some way. I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I have what it takes to do it. Maybe you're a father here and you say, I need to have a conversation with my son or my daughter about a matter, an issue. Maybe you're here and you say, I need to make giving this coming year. I need to make it a priority. I haven't, and I really need to make it a priority. See, the sluggard or the idle person in Proverbs 20 only lacked one thing: movement, action. See, sometimes the only thing we need to do to make a difference is the first step of actually obedience and moving from intention to action. And then number 3, the last thing. Look forward to God's increase. Boy, when that AC goes down, it gets quiet in here, doesn't it? Turn the air conditioner back on. But look forward to God's increase. See, the result of hard work is provision, food. It's the joy of watching the fruit of your labor. We work on something in the right season and don't let the opportunity escape us. There's a harvest to enjoy. Hosea chapter 10, verse 12 says this. It says, I said, plant the good seeds of righteousness, and you will harvest a crop of love. Plow up the hard ground of your hearts, for now is the time to seek the Lord. And listen to this part, that he may come and shower righteousness upon you. Not just like, sprinkle it. Like maybe you're like me. I was christened Episcopal when I was a kid, and they poured that over me a little bit. This is a shower over your life. When in Sunday school, and I appreciate Frank today, as he showed that video with Louis Giglio, and they talked about us celebrating God. And it's interesting because we don't oftentimes think about God that way, that he showers, he showers on us. See, there's a part that is your part and my part, and that's to plow up and plant. And there's a part that's God's part, and that's to bring a harvest and to shower righteousness on you. Isn't it great that God has a part that you don't have to worry about? God has a part that you don't have to fear over. You don't have to lose sleep over. God has a part, and then he has your part, your faith, your action, your movement. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 6, the last scripture I'm going to read. If I could have Heather and Joy come, that'd be great. Hebrews 11:6 says, "And it is impossible to please God without faith. Anyone who wants to come to him must believe that God exists," and listen to this, you've heard this before, "and that he rewards those who diligently or sincerely seek him." God is a rewarder. God is one that showers. It isn't all about everything you can do to make it happen and do this, and I'm in the right season, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. It's doing it with the belief that God, as I'm doing this, you're going to take care of whatever the next season may bring. Whatever the next season may bring. So what should you do here today? What should you do? What should we do as followers of Christ? If you're here, maybe you're not a Christian, you're here. And if you are a Christian, you're here. What should you do? What should you do? How can I please God in this way today? How can I work within the season of my life? How can I work within the season of my life? Number one, don't allow a lost season keep you from making the most of the season you're in. It is so easy to say, man, I wish when my kids were young, we had a youth ministry like Powerline to send them to. I wasn't serving the Lord then, maybe you say, and I was all about this or all about that, and I wasn't pouring into my kids' lives and investing in their faith. Boy, I wished that were the case for my situation. Don't let that season or that lost season in that way, don't let that ruin the next season for you, the season you're in. All of us can look back on a season of life from, boy, I was going to say we punked out. We were afraid. We didn't take advantage of an opportunity or something went by, whatever it might be. We look back and say, I wish I had done that. I wish that, don't allow a lost season to keep you from making the most of the season that you're in. Number two, recognize and identify the season you're in. How do I do that? Here's a thought. What are the most important things you face right now that, if neglected, will impact your future seasons? So the season you're in, the moment you're in your life, the period you're in, not the physical season we're experiencing out here in the change of weather, but the season of your life. What is the season you're in? Identify it. Call it for what it is. How can I find out what are the most important things you face right now in this season that, if neglected, will impact future seasons for you? And number three, determine to create movement in the season you are in. Determine to create movement in the season that you're in. Now if you want to keep it in here, if you want to say to yourself, maybe in your mind today you're saying, okay, I know what season I'm in. I know what the most important things in my season are. But I'm just going to keep it right in here. I'm going to keep it in my mind. I'm going to keep it in my thoughts. If you do that, I can just tell you, you're not really going to create movement. Oftentimes, more often than not, if you include somebody else, hey, I was thinking about this whole idea of seasons, and this is the season I'm in. I need to do something about this. You need to tell somebody. You need to find somebody in your life and say, you know what? I've been thinking about this too long to not see a change happen or something different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find somebody, you're going to find somebody in your life and tell them, actually make it public. Create a simple plan. I mean, something basic. I'm going to do A. And when I've done A for this period of time, I'm going to do B. I don't like complicated plans. Some of you here by nature, you reflect God creating you His image by your complexity. Every plan you have has spreadsheets, has multiple steps and sub-layers and sub-plans. That's some of you are like, oh my gosh, he's talking about the one sitting next to me. But it's true. Some of you, just by nature, you reflect God by His complexity, the fact that He is vast. But I challenge you to make your plan simple. Make it simple. Maybe you need to do it by having an honest conversation with somebody. You need to just be honest and say, listen, in this season, I haven't made this or that priority and important. I haven't. And I really want to. I really want to do and plow everything in this season that I have to, because I want to be able to reap a harvest in the next season. I want to be able to enjoy the fruit of my labor this next season. So I want to do the most important things in this season right now. And so wherever you fall, whatever season you're in, whatever thing you're walking through, be encouraged today. Be encouraged today. Because the reality is, there's always a reason, right? Always a reason not to plow. And the reality is we can't lean on our intentions, but if we plow in season, we get to look forward to God's increase in our lives.